I'd never seen anything so perfect. Then you whispered that you loved me. But I guess if I love you, I should let you move on. I'd never seen anything so perfect. Then you whispered that you loved me. But I guess if I love you, I should let you move on. I'd never...
That is cool. Hey Daniel, welcome to your review. And so I'm taking over for Ravi in this review. So I hope you're okay with that. I hope I can try and match his awesome feedback. It's probably going to be a bit different, you know, but I hope I have some helpful things for you to say. And let me just start by saying this is very nice. I'm not familiar with your work, I think, and really nice job. You know, it feels very organic. It feels alive. It's like your acting is very appropriate to the dialogue, I think. You know, it's very like convincing and it feels natural. So I buy that he's actually feeling what he's saying. So that is already like a high mark to achieve, which is, you know, one of the most difficult things to get a like relatable and sincere performance, especially if it's emotional. So yeah, I think overall it's looking great. So I think we're mostly going to talk about some more detailed things that you might be able to push, or, you know, going to talk about lip sync a little bit. I have a few suggestions for mechanics, though I don't really think anything is not working in this. So, you know, some of it is like comes down to personal taste or like options where you could make different choices that might or might not be better. I do have a few things that stood out to me a little bit that I'll mention. Let me quickly just read through your notes here, which are nice and short. So general timing and polish. You're trying to achieve fleshiness in the body and face, and I think you did. Especially the face feels nice and fleshy, which is a huge plus in any animation, but especially in, you know, I don't want to call it student work because it seems like you're fairly advanced, but like let's say early career work, the fleshiness, especially in the face, like connective tissue and the fleshiness of the eyes and how the lips feel, you know, that they're a little sticky, or that, you know, there's enough detail in there. That is a big plus, which you've already achieved pretty well, I think. So I think for fleshiness, there's like a few little things, but overall I would say you've checked that mark pretty well. Now you want to make sure the timing is nice and snappy. So I don't think this piece feels snappy to me. Now it's a little bit hard to know what style you're going for, because, you know, snappy could mean like super cartoony, or it could just mean that it has some punch to it and it's not super underwater. So there's a range of snappy, you know. But when I watched this piece the first time, I actually watched it on my phone, pretty small, and my first impression was that it is a bit not slow, but it's like it felt a little floaty overall, and like the movements are very they're nicely executed, but they are pretty soft. Let me play through.
I'd never seen anything so perfect.
You know, so and I know that he's in a fairly emotional state and he wouldn't be moving around a ton, but it does feel like the motion sometimes is almost too clean and too perfect, and a little bit, it feels a little mathematical maybe, you know, like it's very well executed and very clean, but maybe it could use a little bit of, not dirt, but, you know, it's hard to describe, like some of that imperfectness in a few places, or some things you could probably speed up a little bit in the head. And I'll mention some more concrete examples of that.
Then
You know, like
whispered
for
that
example, this movement here feels very, very perfect and a little slow to me, in the body and the head.
that you loved me.
And also this turn to the side, you know, it's a similar timing and it's very smooth. So I wonder if you could tweak if you could favor some things a little bit more, right? Where the start, like you ease into it and you ease out of it, but the transition is a little sharper. And it's a fine line because I don't want you to lose that somber emotional feel of the piece overall, but I think it's a little floaty in places. Or when the way he comes down here, you know, where he laughs. Like that laugh to me is a little too simplistic, where it's right, it's a it feels a little bit CG. So I think you could make that give it a little bit more oomph in the I can't really find good words for this. Like I don't want to say make it snappier or bigger, but just accentuate the timing in those things where maybe the laugh, you know, that impulse where he's like I know it's not a big laugh, but still that moment of energy where the laugh is happening could be a bit sharper. And then you have that hang time, right? And then the drop could also maybe have a little more gravity, where he comes down pretty softly. And like I said, you know, it's nicely executed and it's very smooth and nice to look at, but it does lack a little bit of weight. The way he comes down, you know, it's almost like he's in like 70% gravity or something like that, if that makes sense.
But I guess,
you know, even here, this turn to the side in his head, you could think about something where maybe you break that up into two, where he's like, I guess, instead of, you know, it's this like, you have the impetus where the movement starts, and then the way it settles is very much like, you know, it's this like cushioning effect, which like there's nothing that, it's not distracting or anything, but it's just lacking a little bit of realism for me.
I love you.
This feels nicer. This look up to me feels very believable because it's a little sharper, and less soft. Yeah, this too. This head shake is great. I think that hits just the right. This one here, because it's not super smooth. You know, there's a little bit of, I can feel the muscles, and it's not like, you know, it's not overly soft. And same with that last.
I've never seen anything so perfect.
So it's probably that first head shake that is a little too even. This one is pretty good. I mean, you could probably make that, introduce a little bit more, like maybe in the z-axis, introduce a little bit more variation in there, so it's a little less perfect the way he looks over, but it feels nice. That feels too soft to me. This one as well. You know, maybe even with this one, you could
whisper that you loved me.
Where you could potentially break that up a little bit, where the movement up and then over to the nose is like, it's not just one big movement, but maybe there's an up and then an over that has a little bit of an edge to it in the curves, you know, so it's not as smooth. And maybe also in the timing, there's a little bit of a speed up, slow down, and then another acceleration when the hand comes in. And the hand as well, to me the hand feels like I would probably simplify that pose so the hand is not as open, because it feels like he's going to grab something. I would probably have the hand more coming up already in a similar pose. You know, we have some change in the fingers, but it's not going from this to that. I think that feels slightly weird. and it could probably also maybe be turned towards him a little bit more, so it's less of that rotation. It just feels a little bit unnatural to me, the gesture. And then I was going to mention this later, but I think you need a better contact here with, so I would cheat this hand to actually be, okay, now I have my drawing tools. So what I was going to say is that for this gesture here, I think I can feel the nose move, but I don't really see that contact. So I would probably cheat that hand a little higher so it feels like it's actually pressing against the nose. You know, even if it's going in, if the geometry is intersecting a little bit, that's totally fine because you won't see it. But it feels like he's barely touching that nose. And then here it's better. And then make sure in here that the hand doesn't break too much. So it doesn't go too much over there, right? Where, because this is the angle that that our hand doesn't really want to go. It's like uncomfortable, that rotation. So I would keep it a little bit more, like you can do a little bit, but don't go too far in that direction. Because it starts to feel a bit unnatural. All right, let me quickly go through my notes here. So we mentioned the general, you know, timing in the head and body that can be a little bit floaty. About the body, let me play from the beginning again. I've never
seen anything so perfect.
So when I first watched this, I was thinking that the body is too simplistic. But watching it a couple more times, I'm not exactly sure if that's true. Because I like that it's simple in the way that you can just focus on the face, and the body is sort of just a supporting, just there to support the acting, you know. And because I was thinking, usually it's nice if you have the feeling that maybe the character advances a little bit towards camera, or pulls back a little bit, or maybe takes a weight shift to the side, so that it feels like it's not just a head on a stick, you know, that's like moving up and down a little bit and breathing. But there is actual physicality underneath, even though you don't see the legs. But you know, I don't know.
Whispered that you loved me.
Like maybe on that where he laughs, you know, you could feel like he's doing a weight shift a little bit, but that would also mean that the head's going more to the side. It's something to think about, and like I often, even if it's a close-up or a medium close-up or something, I usually try to incorporate some body mechanics in there. And I do think about the feet and how he's standing or she's standing. You know, what foot is the weight on? You know, what's the spine doing and stuff? Because most of the time, when people talk to you close up, or you know, at a close distance, you're still doing something with your whole body. But it's something to think about, and I think overall, it's probably okay what you have. But the body does feel pretty passive, and you know, I can kind of see that you have some, you know, you animated the chest twist to go with the head, and you have a little bit of side drift. But when I look at it, it doesn't. It feels like you kind of animated the upper body to support the head acting, but it doesn't really feel like that body is really, you know, shifting its weight or.
I'd never seen anything so perfect.
So it's maybe a little bit simplistic as well in the body, but then again, it makes you focus on the face, which is nice.
But I guess if I love you.
That feels a little drifty to me here. From here in the body, see how it goes sideways, or I mean, it turns sideways, goes down a little bit, and then just keeps drifting down. That is maybe a bit soft.
But I guess if I love you.
Yeah, because it makes this whole shape slowly drift down, and it's like that 70% gravity that I mentioned, where it's just a bit floaty. Cool. I was wondering, you know, about this crease here. I don't know if you can do something about this, but this feels kind of harsh. And you know, I know it's maybe the collarbones geometry that are there, so it kind of makes sense, but it still feels like this sharp angle that it drew my eye a little bit because there is the shadow and everything. So I wonder if you can somehow smooth that out. I don't know if that's worth it. Just a minor detail. Okay, let me go through some other stuff. I'm already way out of time. But I was going to mention both on my phone and on this screen here, the background is very dark. So his hair kind of blends in with the background. If I put it on my other monitor, it looks much better and brighter. But I'm wondering if it's worth brightening up the background just a little bit, because here on this screen, I cannot see a difference between his suit and the background and his hair in the background. You know, and you never know who is watching your shots and if they have a calibrated monitor, if they're watching it on a tablet or whatever. So it's something to look into for the clarity. I was going to mention that I love the detail you put into the eyes, into the brows. Like, that's all super good and very important. So I'm not going to even talk much about that because you seem to have a great handle on that. I love that you have neck animation in there. You know, that's rarely seen. You know, we do it. We have some decent controls at DreamWorks, and I've seen in recent like Disney movies and stuff, they have, it's more and more that this area that used to be very stiff and without detail, there's more going on, you know, with the Adam's apple and the mastoids and stuff, and all these muscles are more active because there's a lot going on when you're just talking. So I love that you have that in there. That's really, that just is another thing that makes it more alive. Cool. So I would say that the asymmetry you have in the face, you know, the twist you have in the lower face is almost a little much for my taste, especially when he twists over here and then, you know, it just reverses. Like, it looks nice, but I would not do more than this. You know, like the way the mouth is angled. I know that this is kind of a design principle thing, but it's almost too much, I think, for me. You know, it's still, even in this pose, it's pretty bent. But it feels nice overall. So, but I would watch that so you don't push it too far. So some of the blinks, I think you could tweak where to make sure that they ease out of the blink nicely. Because whenever a blink hits too hard at the top, when it's opening again, it feels unnatural. Because our muscles, you know, they fire and then they relax when they open again. So it's kind of like boom, pshoo. That's how I imagine it, at least. So I always make sure that they kind of go quick on the close, and when they open, you always have that kind of shape. You know, you have it closed, and then on the open, you have a nice long cushion, especially on those last maybe 3-4 frames. It's like, you know, the last 80 or 90% of where the lid's almost open. But then you want to really softly ease out. And I notice it in this blink a little bit, though in this one it's working nicely. Where was it? Here. Like, these ones hit a little bit. They go ka-dunk, you know, and then they hit at the top. So I would soften that a little more.
Then you whispered that you loved me.
And I think this blink feels mechanical to me, where it closes and it stays closed for 3-4 frames maybe. And then it quickly opens again, so it's like ding. That to me feels a little unnatural because that's not how we usually blink. You know, it's a little bit mechanical. So I'd probably take a frame or so out of the close, have a bit more squish, and soften the opening. So that here you have a little bit more. Well, it's like a double blink, I guess. And then here, when he's squishing his nose, I think you can compress the eyes more so that here you feel more change as this cheek is pushing in you know, I would probably reverse if it looks good, I would reverse the eye line and get them closer to the brows so that you really feel this, right? The cheek squishing into the eye. I think when the nose relaxes, it's a little slow. See, when I push my nose over and then let go, it's like 2 frames at the most. It's pretty quick how it snaps back. So I'd make sure that is not here. It's like 4 frames or so, or maybe 5 or 6. That feels too slow. It's like whoosh. I really like the tears. I was wondering if you have a way when they come in to have them like come in a little bit slower, so that at first, you know, you have smaller tears or like less of them, and then over a few seconds they go to what you have. But I'm not sure if your rig will allow that. But it would be awesome if his eyes would get wetter over a few seconds and not be there right away and then stay at the same intensity. You know what I mean? That would be awesome. But I know that's it's probably not that easy. And the tear, I think the tear is great. I would probably not have it come out into the dark. I would probably try and keep it here on the cheek. And because it feels weird on this screen, it looks like it's already off his face. And I know, you know, on the other screen it looked better, and I think I would make it a little bigger, the tear itself, and maybe if it's actual geometry, I don't know if you maybe painted this on. If it's actual geometry, I would make it a bit more transparent, so that it feels too small to me, and it's like one color. So if you can make it slightly transparent and a little bigger, I think that would look better. All right, talked about that, the nose, eyeline. Oh, so one thing you can think about in general, this is also for other shots, if you have your hands off screen most of the time, you can still think about, this is similar to the body action, you can still think about maybe what he's doing with his hands off screen. And because you see his shoulders and part of his upper arm, you know, you would still feel some gestures that he's doing, maybe a shrug, or maybe if his hands do something like this off screen. And it can sometimes give a nice extra level of, not subtext, but like, you know, secondary action. If you animate the upper arms and the shoulders. Perfect. Not just for breathing, but also for whatever he's gesturing, maybe. All right. I think that's all about the... Oh boy, I'm way out of time. Let's give you a few pointers for lip sync, and then we're going to be done. I think your lip sync is really strong overall. You know, nice shapes. I love that you're not over accentuating things, and you found some creative solutions for blending things together. That's awesome. However, I have a few suggestions.
I've never seen anything so perfect.
So perfect. On perfect, I'm missing the a little bit in his mouth, in the shape. It looks more like he's saying perfect. Like it's too wide. And I wish there was a here, like this, I think could be more like an with the corners still narrower and a little bit more of an U shape. So like, you know, a bit more like per, and then you can have the F still a little bit smaller narrower, so that it's more of a transition, right? Where maybe this shape, and then this is your widest. So the F is like, you know, the corners are maybe there, coming out of that a little bit smaller shape. Perfect. And then on you're the widest.
So perfect.
I think that would be good. Let's see. That's good.
Then you whispered that you loved.
Then you whispered to me is a little bit too simple.
Then you whispered that you then you
So I don't see the whispered. So I think the oo should come a little sooner. Then you there needs to be an accent on the wisp. Then you whispered that whispered. I think that I'm missing that.
Then you whispered that you loved me.
Yeah, I think the love me is good. Let's see. Actually, I think the love me should also be a little bit more noticeable. So now it's more like whispered that you love me. Yeah, see how he's open on the L and then he's closing. So it's like love me. Well, I guess that could work. I think there should still be a little bit of an because you have the time. You know, if that is your v from love, like I don't know what that is. That should be the So you can have the L and then make this one bigger, right? That's more of like an okay, sorry if I'm not drawing this very well, but this is the love, and then you go into the v because you have the frames, and the me is fine. You could probably go a little wider on the love me. Can maybe widen the corners a bit. That's good. I think you might be able to go a little bigger on the and also, you know, a little bit sharper in the head, like we talked about before. So you could probably also open the mouth a bit more, like, but not too much. Shouldn't be corny.
But I guess.
And then the but I guess. You need to open the mouth a little sooner. It's a bit late there. When you hear the buh, then the mouth should already be open. Yeah, I can hear the buh and the mouth is still closed. And then you have a little more time to accentuate the but I guess that the guess has an accent as well. Which it has, but now there's no closing before. So I would probably, but I, you know, keep open the jaw, and then for the g, keep it sort of medium, and then guess has another open. But I guess, I think that would be good. Not to overcomplicate what you have, but I think it's lacking just a little bit of accentuation here and there.
If I love you.
Yep.
If I love you.
The love you is pretty good. I think the love is also borderline. It's already closing again, and the love you, I'm almost missing that accent.
If I love you.
But it's pretty good. I mean, that's working pretty well. Nice how he closes here.
I should let you move on.
I think this is a really interesting choice because I was looking closely about the move on.
I should let you move on. I should let you move on.
I think that's a very interesting choice. I wouldn't have done this, but it's working nicely because usually you would think I should let you move on is two closes, right? For the M and the V. But you put it in one. You have the mouth closed for M, and then you go straight to the move. You're kind of doing a move instead of a move. So it's interesting, but I think playing it at speed, it works totally fine. So that's an interesting idea.
Let you move on.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have closed the mouth at the end. Move on. Move on. Yeah, you can. Personally, I probably would have left it at the move on and leave it slightly open, but what you have is fine. So I think that's all I have to say. Hopefully this helps, and hopefully it's clear. You know, it's like it's a lot of detail work, and some of those suggestions are like, I'm not sure if it's better, but you can try it out. Some of it is more to keep in mind for your next piece. This is already so solid, but because you specifically asked about nice and snappy timing, I think depending on what you consider snappy, I would put this more in the category of like semi-realism, on more on the simplified side, and it's a little drifty in some places where you could tighten up some spacing, maybe speed up a few things, or you know, favor things more where they ease out and ease in, but the transition is a little bit sharper. And it's something I struggle with as well, and it's not easy to find that balance. So, you know, keep doing what you're doing. It's looking great, and all the best. And I hope to see you around here at the Agora community. Okay, have a good one.